You are listening to The World as I See It podcast. 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 As I See It podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The World as I See It. So, today we're going to be talking about two things that, whenever I say them, you might think to yourself, that's impossible for someone who is completely blind. Snow skiing and scuba diving. Now, I do want to be clear that no, I've not been scuba diving in the ocean. I've done it in a pool. And I am not a professional snow skier either. I just ski down the smaller hills like the bunny slopes and just things like that. And you know, I'm just someone who loves the thrill of trying something new, even when it's hard, nerve-wracking, and challenging. So, for the past 3 years, I have been snow skiing. And even though it's only once a year, it's basically like riding a bike. You know, by the second or third time you ride a bike, or you haven't done one in a while, it just comes back to you. So whenever I've gone snow skiing the second and third year, it just comes right back to me. You know, remembering how to move, your body, it just remembers how to move, how to be in control, and the nerves turn into pure excitement. So I do these, these amazing experiences and these amazing events through an incredible group called Scuba. So Scuba is Southeast Kids in Action, and every month I get together with visually impaired people and we go do things. You know, it builds up our independence and it just gets us to try new experiences that we may not have done before. And snow skiing and scuba diving were the two that I've done, but I have done so many more. I have done crafts, I've made bath bombs, I have done a whole bunch of events with Scuba. But for the skiing, specifically, we work with the Gateway Disabled Ski Program, or GDSP. GDSP, it's a group of amazing volunteers who make sure people with disabilities can enjoy, the mountains safely and have fun. So they provide the expertise and the guides. And people, they're always so surprised when they hear that I ski while being completely blind. But with those guides, it's actually very, very safe. They are my eyes on the snow. So if you've never been skiing, the first thing that you have to deal with is the gear. So you have to wear these massive boots that are basically heavy plastic casings for your feet. They have a bunch of buckles. They're very tight. They're very tight. They're very stiff, and they don't bend at the ankle. And they have to be heavy because the weight is, what keeps you stable. And it's, those shoes, that's where your skis go on. You put your, foot in your ski, and you push down with your heel so your ski can pop into your boot. And it just also helps you be in control. So these boots, they lock your legs into a sturdy position, so I stay steady while I move. Whenever I wear these boots, I can't bend my ankles. They're just in a straight position. And they have to be tight so they don't fall off your feet. And your skis can stay on them. And then you have, your skis that go onto your boots. And they have these metal edges that grip the snow when you need to turn or you need to stop. So once you're all geared up, first, I feel like a big thing is you gotta learn to walk in those boots. I mean, they're like so heavy. Like, I have to pick up my whole leg to walk on them. And it's hard because you can't bend your ankles. So that's the first challenge. But, after that, you head to what I call the conveyor belt. Or, some people at the ski resort call it the magic carpet. And I really don't like this part. This part is the most nerve-wracking thing. It's a moving track which you step on while it's moving, which is very hard in itself when you can't see. But it moves you up the hill, and there's nothing to hold on to, and if they have to hit the emergency stop button, the whole thing jerks and you're just standing there trying not to fall over. It's definitely the most awkward part of the day because there is nothing to hold on to. You're just, balancing. And it's very hard for me to balance. But, my guides are always very helpful. That they're always helpful when it comes to the conveyor belt to make it as easy as possible. So now, because I am completely blind, I don't ski alone. So I use what's called a bamboo pole. So it's literally just this long pole. So I stand in the middle, and I have a guide on my left and I have a guide on my right. So we all hold onto the pole together. So this way, they can physically help me turn and stay on the path. So the big thing with snow skiing is communication. It's everything. I usually, if I go like on a different slope or a bit of a steeper slope like I did last year, I usually will have them describe the slope to me before we even start. So, telling me if it's wide or bumpy or has a hill in the middle, so that I'm not surprised. So then they will call at the turns and tell me exactly when to stop. So it's a total team effort. And even though I stay on the smaller slopes, the speed still feels amazing. So last year, the conveyor belt was splitting the two slopes. So the slope on my left was a lot smaller. It was the very beginner slope. And the right side of the conveyor belt, it was still a beginner slope, but it was a little steeper and it had, a few more turns. It also had a little uphill in the middle and then a downhill to finish it off. So, that second slope that I had done, was my favorite. And you went a lot faster on the, slope that was on the right of the conveyor belt. And so, therefore, I stayed on that one a lot. But that feeling of freedom, it's the same that, I feel when I go scuba diving. Now, before I talk about scuba diving, I do just want to say that I have not had a favorite year of snow skiing. They have all been so amazing. But I think last year was probably, maybe not my favorite, but it was just, all of the years have been amazing. But last year, it actually kind of felt like skiing weather. It wasn't too hot, but it also wasn't too cold. It was perfect. When I went scuba diving in 2025, I've only done it, that one time, but it was an amazing experience. So to go scuba diving, you have to wear a lot of gear, a lot of equipment. You have this heavy tank on your back, filled with air, and you breathe through a tube called a regulator that goes into your mouth. And you also wear like a vest that helps you float or sink, and a mask to protect your eyes. The coolest, you might be wondering, well, how do you communicate? So I don't talk with my hands. Never have. I'm not a big hand talker. But since you obviously can't communicate with your mouth underwater, I had to use a system of hand signals. So, that was a challenge. And this wasn't just for guiding. It was how we talked. So before we even went under the water, they showed me the hand signals, what I needed to do. So the instructor, they would keep their hand on my arm, and they would use specific squeezes and signals on my arm to, check it on me. For example, a certain squeeze might mean, are you okay? And I would use my hand that, they were squeezing my arm with to signal back, to let them know that I was fine, to let them know that I wanted to go up to the surface, and things like that. So that was one of those things that I had to learn and pay attention to, and it was kind of hard. But, it was also, a really good learning experience, that I had to learn how to communicate in a different way. But I loved scuba diving because it wasn't a pool. It was so peaceful because all the noise of the world, it was just gone. It just disappeared. And it's completely quiet except the sound of your own breath and the water moving around you. It was incredibly relaxing and peaceful. At one point, I just was literally laying on my stomach at the bottom of the pool because it was just so relaxing. And it was just awesome. And I would 100% do it again. So, I just wanted to make this episode to show you that just because, I'm completely blind, that these unique experiences, they are possible with the right kind of people and, the right equipment and volunteers. Anything, is possible for anybody. It may just look a little different to somebody who is completely sighted. So, whether I'm underwater or flying down a snowy hill, it's all about trust. And I will say, by the time I get home from snow skiing, I'm always very sore because I'm using the muscles that I don't normally use. But every single year, it's so worth it to have those experiences. So, if you enjoyed this episode, please share it. If you have any questions, feedback, or ideas, you can email me at theworldasiseeitpodcast@gmail.com, or you can comment down below. Stay curious, keep listening, and I will talk to you in the next episode.
You've been listening to the World as I See It podcast.